The scene was as sudden as it was overwhelming. Jungkook, the youngest member of BTS, broke down in uncontrollable tears, collapsing into Taehyung's arms in front of thousands of fans. For minutes, the arena was frozen, the audience unsure whether they were witnessing a fleeting emotional slip or a profound revelation unfolding before their eyes. And just when the speculation reached its peak, Jin, the eldest member, stepped forward and revealed why Jungkook's tears had flowed so violently, a revelation that stunned ARMY worldwide. What truth did Jin disclose that night, and why has it left fans unable to stop questioning the authenticity and meaning of the moment? Those who were present described the atmosphere as one of simultaneous electricity and silence. The concert had been progressing as expected, synchronized choreography, powerful vocals, and an ocean of purple light. Yet, when Jungkook suddenly halted, his shoulders trembling, and turned into Taehyung for support, the mood shifted instantly. Taehyung wrapped his arms around him tightly, visibly whispering words of comfort, while Jungkook buried his face against his chest, tears streaming uncontrollably. Cameras zoomed in, and within seconds, the image of Jungkook crying in Taehyung's embrace spread across every corner of the internet. But what drove him to such visible sorrow? It was Jin who broke the silence. Known for his composure, Jin did not deliver a long speech or an elaborate explanation. Instead, he gave a stark statement, short yet devastatingly powerful. He revealed the hidden weight Jungkook had been carrying, a burden invisible to the audience, but impossible for him to suppress any longer. According to Jin, Jungkook's tears were not merely about the performance, nor just about exhaustion. They stemmed from something far deeper, a sense of unresolved pain that even his brothers in the group had felt, but never fully confronted. The moment Jin uttered those words, fans gasped, and many began sobbing in the audience, realizing they were witnessing something painfully real. What Jin chose to reveal was not packaged as an announcement, nor softened to spare emotions. His tone was deliberate, serious, and heavy with meaning. He explained that Jungkook had been struggling internally, torn between the weight of expectations and the personal battles he rarely allowed to surface. The reason he collapsed into Taehyung's arms was because Taehyung, perhaps more than anyone, understood the depth of his struggle in that moment. Was this a brotherly bond exposed in its rawest form, or was it a message to ARMY that the polished surface they so often see hides a reality far more fragile? The revelation spread like wildfire across media platforms. Clips of Jin's words, combined with a haunting image of Jungkook clinging to Taehyung, dominated trends worldwide. Fans debated endlessly, was this an unintended disclosure of private pain, or had Jin deliberately chosen that moment to bring hidden truths into the light? The ambiguity only fueled the shock. What precisely was Jungkook battling that brought him to tears so publicly? Why did Taehyung become his anchor in that crucial instant? And why did Jin, of all people, feel compelled to explain the situation? To many observers, Jin's decision to speak carried its own significance. As the eldest member, he has often taken on the role of protector, carefully balancing the group's image while shielding its vulnerabilities. For him to break that pattern and openly reveal the cause of Jungkook's breakdown suggested urgency. It suggested that silence was no longer an option. Was Jin signaling that the pressures endured by the members had reached a breaking point? Or was he offering transparency as a way to connect more deeply with ARMY, trusting them with truths usually hidden? The impact of this revelation cannot be overstated. Fans inside the venue wept openly, clutching their banners as they processed the sight of their youngest idol breaking down. Online, reactions oscillated between sympathy and unease. Some praised Jin's honesty, calling it a brave step toward acknowledging the human cost of fame. Others questioned whether such vulnerability should have been exposed in such a public way. Was this moment of raw truth necessary for healing, or did it risk becoming another spectacle in the endless cycle of media consumption? The symbolism of Jungkook crying in Taehyung's arms cannot be ignored. It spoke to the unspoken reliance between the two, a bond built on years of shared triumphs and hardships. Taehyung's steady embrace contrasted Jungkook's uncontrollable sobbing, creating an image of stability and fragility intertwined. But once Jin framed it with his explanation, the scene acquired even greater weight. It was no longer just an image of comfort. It became a declaration of the invisible pressures crushing Jungkook's spirit. This leaves us with urgent questions. How much of what we witnessed was pure authenticity, and how much was magnified by the staging of the performance itself? Was Jin's revelation a spontaneous act of honesty, or was it part of a calculated decision to address growing speculation about the member's emotional state? In the age of viral media, where every gesture is amplified and dissected, how can fans distinguish between reality and spectacle? The truth, as always, is layered. On one level, Jungkook's tears were undeniably real. No performance can fake the trembling of his body or the desperation in his grip on Taehyung. On another level, the timing and framing of the revelation demand scrutiny. Jin's words carried both the sincerity of a brother and the awareness of a global audience watching. Was it both confession and performance, vulnerability and strategy, truth and narrative woven together? For ARMY, this moment has already entered the collective memory of BTS's journey. Yet with its power comes responsibility. As fans replay the footage and dissect every word, they must ask themselves, are they honoring Jungkook's pain or consuming it as entertainment? Are they treating Jin's revelation as an invitation to understand or as fuel for speculation? The line between empathy and exploitation grows thinner with every viral replay, and so the haunting questions remain. Why did Jungkook break in that moment? And what deeper truths lie beneath his tears? Why did Jin reveal what he did? And what did he withhold? Was this the unveiling of reality long suppressed? Or was it an orchestrated act designed to resonate with maximum emotional impact? ARMY must decide for themselves how to interpret the event, knowing that the answers may never come in full. What cannot be denied is the intensity of the moment. Jungkook's collapse into Taehyung's arms, Jin's somber revelation, and the tidal wave of emotions that swept through both the arena and the world have left an indelible mark. It is a reminder that even idols, often seen as untouchable, carry weights heavy enough to break them. It is also a reminder of the power of words. One revelation from Jin transformed a private breakdown into a public reckoning. For now, the questions are more powerful than the answers. Was this reality, or was it narrative? Was it confession, or was it strategy? Above all, why did Jin choose this moment? And what does it tell us about the unseen struggles of those who stand before the brightest lights yet face the darkest shadows? Until clarity emerges, one thing is certain. The image of Jungkook crying in Taehyung's arms, illuminated by Jin's revelation, will remain etched in memory as one of the most haunting and unforgettable episodes in BTS's story. With lasting consequences, reactions online demonstrate the scale of the impact. Some fans described the moment as heart-shattering yet healing, while others admitted they felt a sense of betrayal, confessing that they had long believed the bond between Jin and Jungkook was unshakable. Yet perhaps this is precisely why the moment is so important. It strips away the illusion of perfection and instead presents something raw, real, and deeply human. The image of Jungkook crying in front of Jin is not an image of weakness, but of authenticity, of emotions too heavy to suppress. It forces both fans and critics alike to reconsider what it truly means to follow BTS. Are we witnessing flawless idols, or are we witnessing men who, despite their global stature, must still navigate the complexities of human relationships? Attention has also turned toward the symbolism of the apology itself. In Korean culture, acts of apology often carry profound significance, especially when performed in person. To arrive unannounced, to stand at someone's door with sincerity, is an admission that cannot be taken lightly. Jin's gesture, therefore, transcends a simple apology. It is a declaration of accountability, a recognition that whatever had transpired was serious enough to demand not just words but presence. The decision to face Jungkook directly rather than from a distance underscores the gravity of the matter, highlighting a responsibility that Jin refused to ignore. Equally important is Jungkook's reaction. Tears can be interpreted in countless ways: grief, relief, anger, gratitude, or even exhaustion. Yet in this case, the immediacy of his tears suggests a release of emotions long held back. Was he carrying resentment, hurt, or disappointment that only Jin's apology could unearth? Or were his tears born from the overwhelming relief of finally hearing words he had been waiting for? The ambiguity is precisely what makes this moment so powerful. It resists simple explanation, leaving space for interpretation, debate, and continuous analysis. Observers have also pointed out the striking contrast between Jungkook's usual image and what transpired that night. Known as the Golden Magne, Jungkook is often portrayed as resilient, adaptable, and unbreakable in his versatility. To see him undone so completely, his guard shattered in the privacy of his home, is a reminder that even the strongest personas carry vulnerabilities beneath the surface. This duality, public strength versus private fragility, creates a complex narrative that resonates deeply with fans who themselves navigate similar contrasts in their own lives. Speculation about the contents of the gift has only added fuel to the fire. Was it an item of personal significance, perhaps something tied to their trainee days or earlier memories? Could it have been something Jin had held onto during his military service, now offered as a symbolic gesture of continuity? Or was it something entirely unexpected, a message wrapped in material form that only Jungkook could decipher? The secrecy surrounding the gift has transformed it into a focal point of curiosity, its mystery serving as a metaphor for the unanswered questions that continue to surround this incident. Within the broader narrative of BTS, this event can be seen as a turning point. It challenges the carefully curated image of unity that has defined the group for years, replacing it with something far more complex, but also more genuine. True unity, after all, is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to confront it, to apologize, and to forgive. Jin's apology, Jungkook's tears, these are not signs of weakness within BTS, but signs of growth, proof that their bond is strong enough to withstand turbulence. Yet whether the world will accept this more complicated version of BTS remains uncertain. Will fans embrace the reality of imperfection, or will they cling to the idealized image that has long been projected? Critics argue that the very fact this moment became known to the public at all suggests an intentional leak, perhaps even a calculated act meant to shape narratives. Was the apology truly private, or was it allowed to surface in order to convey a message to the world? If so, what message? That BTS's relationships are genuine? That they're willing to admit mistakes? Or that they, like anyone else, carry the scars of conflict and reconciliation? Such questions add a layer of intrigue that complicates any attempt at definitive interpretation. The human dimension, however, remains undeniable. Behind the speculation, behind the theories, lies a simple truth. Jin showed up to apologize, and Jungkook cried. Stripped of context, that fact alone speaks volumes. It speaks of vulnerability, accountability, and the courage to face difficult truths. It speaks of the burden of fame, of the personal costs carried silently behind dazzling performances. And it speaks of the enduring need for connection, even when the world expects nothing but strength. For ARMYs, the incident has become more than just a story about two members. It has become a mirror through which they examine their own experiences of forgiveness, reconciliation, and emotional release. The discourse online reflects this, with fans sharing their own stories of apologies long overdue, of relationships healed by a single gesture, of tears shed when words were finally spoken. In this way, Jin and Jungkook's moment transcends BTS. It becomes a universal narrative of what it means to be human under pressure, to admit fault, to forgive, and to see or why as the dust settles, the unanswered questions linger. What exactly did Jin apologize for? Why did Jungkook react with such intensity? What was inside the gift box? Was this the closing of an old wound or the opening of a new chapter? And perhaps most haunting of all, what does this mean for the future of BTS? Will this apology strengthen the group, or does it hint at tensions that have yet to fully surface? The world may never know the full truth, but the power of the moment lies precisely in its ambiguity. One thing remains certain: the image of Jin at Jungkook's door, the words of apology carried on his breath, and the sight of Jungkook breaking down in tears will not fade easily from memory. It is a moment that has already secured its place in the lore of BTS, not as a polished performance or a scripted speech, but as a raw, unfiltered fragment of reality. And it leaves the world with a single, unrelenting question: what truly happened that night when Jin showed up at Jungkook's house with an apology?